Welcome back, everybody, to Season 2 of TruTalk with TruMotion, where a couple guys talk about how to make the world a better place and hopefully make your day a little bit better in the process. My name is Mark, followed by my co-host Stephen. Let's get things kicked off. Well, first off, we're going to have a little bit different of a format of a show. Just kind of see how things are going, kind of changing it up a little bit. We just don't want to feel like we're here preaching to everybody. We want to have a little bit of fun with it. So we're going to be having some recap time. We're going to talk about how our Christmas vacations were. We're going to have a weekly top 5 where we discuss our top 5, whatever subject of the week is. We're going to have an Ask the Sensei question segment where we have students and submitters write in questions, and we'll answer questions on the air. And then we'll have a wrap-up time. So this is our first go at it, so we're going to kind of see how things go. Bear with us, until we get all the kinks worked out, but I think it should be a good format. So first off, it's recap. So, Stephen, it's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded. How was your Christmas break or holiday break? We've already talked about like what you feel about Christmas, so
yeah.
We don't need to go down that route again. But
I'm glad we're listening to the shows that we're making here. I had a great time over Christmas break. I really, honestly, just put in the work in my businesses and things on the side. Took that extra time that I would be teaching here, and I put it to pretty good use.
There you go.
How about yours?
It was good. The family and I, we like to travel during the holidays, so we took some time to go on a little cruise down to Mexico. So we were at sea for about a week, and it was nice. It was a lot warmer than it was here. My body and my joints felt a whole lot better at sea level and 70-degree temperatures as opposed to mile high and 20 degrees. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was nice to kind of get away, recharge, spend time with the family, build those memories that we talked about during that holiday episode. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Interestingly enough, before we got on the boat, we ported out of Long Beach. So if you've ever been to the Long Beach area, they have the Queen Mary there, which is basically I believe it's the sister ship to the Titanic. So it looks a lot like the Titanic. And they have a hotel, so you can actually stay the night there. So we actually stayed the night at the Queen Mary because it's literally right across the parking lot from where you board the cruise ship.
Wow.
So we're like, the last time we boarded out of Long Beach, it was ridiculous. We were in a hotel about a mile away, and it took us 2 hours to get to the port just because so many people were traveling at the same time. So we're like, we should stay at the Queen Mary next time, then just walk over. And it was honestly a really, really nice hotel.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy because it's old, so nothing was really new. The rooms were pretty big. Like everything was comfortable, and the service was awesome. Like, nowadays, unfortunately, you go into businesses and other things, and it's like they look at you if you ask them a question like you're putting them out. But the service was top notch. So if you're ever in Long Beach, I would highly recommend staying at the Queen Mary. They call it the haunted hotel.
I was about to ask.
Yeah, we unfortunately did not experience any sort of paranormal activity. We were looking, but everybody, all the ghosts seemed to leave us alone. So
they were waiting to get on their own cruise.
Exactly. But no, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I love the Christmas break just so it gives everybody a chance to kind of go on their own, do their own thing, recharge their battery however they see fit. And then, coming back this week, hitting classes hard, excited to see everybody, getting back to doing the work, all that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of been our week. It's been a nice first week back at the dojo. Classes have seemed to be running pretty well. And yeah, it's good to be back with everybody, even though, we do live in Utah and the weather's cold and it's been snowing all day here. But I remember we got back on Saturday night the 30th. And the second I walked off the plane, my joints are like, oh, idiot. Why'd you bring us back to this cold weather? So it's been, my joints have not liked being back, but I mentally have liked being back. So that's good. So what we're doing, the next segment is our top 5. So each week we're going to pick a topic and we're going to list our top 5 favorite things from that topic. This week, obviously, since we're in the martial arts industry, we are going to talk about our top 5 martial arts movies. So Stephen came far more prepared than I did and actually has written a list down. So Stephen, what is your top 5 movie list? And is this in order of like 5 is the number 5, or is this in any particular order?
I don't know. I would rank them in order, but I also feel like there's different, like you can spend a lot of time, you can find a martial arts movie, which you could call The Karate Kid a martial arts movie, but you could also just find a movie with really intense fighting scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's
a
dichotomy there.
There's a lot
Is
to
it
say.
a martial arts
Yeah.
movie?
Like, is John Wick a martial arts movie?
I would say yes.
I
John
would
Wick
say yes,
is
too.
on my list.
Yeah. So
So-
what's your top 5?
All right, top 5 in no particular order. Number 1, John Wick series. Number 2, Bloodsport.
Okay.
Number 3, Flashpoint. Number
Okay.
4, an interesting one, Tai Chi Zero. Number 5, Kung Fu Killer.
Kung Fu Killer. Okay. Those are pretty good. The Flashpoint, I was like, I remember that's with Donnie Yen, right?
Yeah.
And that's where they really start to introduce like MMA and grappling into the fight scenes.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list. Yeah, John Wick, man, his gun fu is that's, if you don't like the John Wick movies, I mean, granted it is violent.
Super violent.
So if you're not into like violent action movies, obviously it's not going to be a thing for you, but like the beauty of like the choreographed scenes that they go through, my gosh, that is something to behold. So all right,
you're
so
on the spot now.
my top 5, I had a list like mentally in my head, again kind of in no particular order. One is called The Protector with Tony Jaa. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Tony Jaa is a Muay Thai type fighter out of Thailand. He's kind of like Jackie Chan in terms of like he does all his own stunts. And there are 2 major scenes in this movie that are just like out of this world. He does one scene where he's going up a big winding staircase of a building, and it is one long take. No cuts. He's going from room to room, and he just destroys everybody. So if you've not seen The Protector, highly recommend. Okay, highly recommend. Another one is you can't go wrong with Bloodsport. I mean, yeah, Bloodsport is a classic, 80s action movie where Van Damme's screaming in slow motion and all that great stuff. You can't go wrong with that. The Raid. The Raid is another great movie. I can never pronounce the actor's name, but I believe he's, what is it, Filipino? I think it's a Filipino production company. But The Raid's really good. So we've got The Protector, Bloodsport, The Raid. I would dare one movie that really kind of holds a special place in my heart is Rumble in the Bronx with Jackie Chan. Why? Because that is the first movie I saw of Jackie Chan's in the theater.
Okay.
Okay, so my dad and I went to go see it, and I never heard of Jackie Chan before. Okay, I thought he was a girl. Okay, with the name Jackie. So I remember watching the movie Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, and Sandra Bullock goes on this like kicking spree of like where she just kicks everybody up and beats everybody up, and Stallone's like, "Where'd you learn how to do that?" And she's like, "The Jackie Chan films." And I was like, "Oh, so that girl's like must be really good."
Yeah.
And then we went to this movie called Rumble in the Bronx, And this was my first introduction to Jackie Chan, and it was dubbed, and the dubbing was awful, and I was like, what's going on with their mouths? But then I had to get over that, and when you watch the movie, great fight scenes, great choreography, it's funny, it's got action, great movie. So I like Rumble in the Bronx. My last one, this one, there's so many. A really good one, and it's kind of hokey, but I like it. It's called Iron Monkey.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an old one with Donnie Yen. And again, it's like old ancient China, all that stuff. Some honorable mentions would be like Once Upon a Time in China with Jet Li. The Black Mask with Jet Li. That's really good too. A modern one would be The Forbidden Kingdom.
Okay.
With Jackie Chan and Jet Li. Those are really good. Man, if you've never heard of an actor named Michael Jai White,
oh yeah,
he is phenomenal martial artist. He is freaking good.
Yeah.
He's in a couple of really good movies. One's called Blood and Bone, and oh god, what was the other one? He's in a bunch of them that have just go straight to video, but he's awesome. Scott Adkins, he's another phenomenal martial artist.
Yep.
He was in a movie called Ninja, and those were really good. Yeah, so those are a couple of honorable mentions, but man, yeah, trying to list like your favorites down to 5, it's hard. But I would dare say, Rumble in the Bronx, Bloodsport, The Protector, The Raid, and The Iron Monkey. I'd have to go with those as my top 5.
There we go.
So, yeah. Let us know if you want to list your top 5 in the comments. We'd love to see what you guys are watching, and maybe it's something we've heard of, maybe it's something we haven't heard of, or maybe it sparks our like, oh, God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because that happens every time. Anytime you make a top 5, you're like, oh, I've got it. And then somebody makes a comment, and you're like, I don't got it anymore.
I don't got it.
So, next week we'll have a new top 5, but we figured, let's talk about stuff we already know about, which is martial arts, and talk about the top 5 martial arts movies that we like to watch. So the next segment is Ask the Senseis. So these are some questions that our students have kind of brought up recently, and we thought we'd share them with you guys. So the first question is, and we get this all the time just because of what we do, is what is Kempo? Okay. Everybody always asks us, what is Kempo? All right. Well, Kempo is a form of martial arts that, well, depends on how far back you want to trace it, but it goes from like modern times to from Hawaii. Then, well, I should start further back than that. It started basically back in China, then it went through Japan, and then immigrants from Japan immigrated from Hawaii. Then it kind of started in Hawaii, and then from Hawaii it came to the mainland. Our lineage, like TruMotion's lineage, as far as we can go back, it would be like if you're drawing a family tree, it would be like my lineage is myself, then Master Martin, then Grandmaster Lenton, and then it starts to get fractured from there because we've learned stuff from Fred Villari, Nick Serio, Ed Parker's on that tree branch. And then when we go over to Hawaii, everybody kind of learned from a guy named William Thunderbolt Chow. And then from Chow learned from James Matosi. And then that's where it starts to get a little hazy from there. I mean, we do have some people that are like phenomenal historians. I think Mike Ham would probably know a little bit more about that than I would. So I'd love to get him in on and talk about the lineage of Shaolin Kempo. But Shaolin Kempo is basically standing art that combines the movements of karate, kung fu, and jiu-jitsu. Now, there's two forms of spelling with this style called Kempo. There's a Kenpo with an N, and there's a Kempo with an M. Ken with an N kind of originates more in the Japanese realm. Okay? That's more like American Kempo. So for those of you guys that know Larry Tatum, he's more of a Kenpo practitioner. Kempo is more of your Chinese influence. And that's kind of more of where our style originates. Because our official title is Shaolin Kempo. So Kempo combines karate, kung fu, and jiu-jitsu movements. And when we say jiu-jitsu, we're not really talking like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, where it's the ground fighting and you're rolling. We do teach a little bit of that to our students, but we're by no means experts in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The jiu-jitsu that we're talking about is the more of the old traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, where it's a standing joint locks, throws, and takedowns type stuff. So as far as I'm versed, I mean, obviously I still have a lot to learn as well. That is the best way to describe Kempo. Okay. So the next question we had, and this one is really kind of for the both of us. We'll start with you, Stephen. With your experience, what is the hardest thing about teaching?
Oh, this one's interesting because the hardest thing for me about teaching is I made it to black. I don't see myself as anything extraordinary. I want all my students to follow that path, and really taking myself out of the mold of myself and to meet my students where they're at is something I'm working on. Is making sure that it's like you're not here to be a duplicate of me. You're here to be a better you. And so that's what's hard for me to remember, to make sure I constantly have that in my mind. Yeah.
I would dare say the toughest thing about teaching for me is not getting frustrated. And not getting frustrated in terms of, you have to remember that, kind of like what you're saying, you're not there to turn them into you. But learning how to allow people to take things at their own pace. We kind of briefly were talking about this the other day when we're like, hey, what is the hardest thing about teaching? And for me, I have such high expectations for all of these students that I want so much for them, but they have to want it themselves. Because I see so much potential in every single person that I come across with and work with. And I have to be patient and kind of go with the flow in terms of they're going to get things and do things on their own terms. I can show them, and I will continue to show them, but they won't pick it up until they're mentally there. And there's nothing I can do to speed that process up. And for me, that's probably the toughest thing about teaching. And I have to remember, I always go back to when I was a student. Okay. It's the same thing when you're dealing with parenting. How was I when I was a kid? What was I like when I was a kid? And then kind of take things from there. Because I remember when I was a student, man, I wanted to be really good really fast. So I did everything in my power to get better. Okay. I didn't try to take, I don't want to say time off or take advantage, but I did everything I could to where every time I stepped back in the dojo, I was prepared for new stuff.
Right.
So, and not everybody's like that. And you have to be okay with that. And I remember, this isn't necessarily in the teaching and learning realm, but more of in the business realm. People would tell me things all the time, multiple times. And I just wasn't getting it, or I wasn't prepared to understand it. And then all of a sudden I got it. And they would look at me and be like, yeah, we've been telling you that for like 5 years, dumbass. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I have to remember that with the students. It's like, yeah, you will probably have to tell some students for years the same sort of stuff, but then all of a sudden it'll click and they'll be like, I get it. And you're like, yeah, it's about time. But you got it. I know you did. I know you could. So for me, the toughest thing about teaching is not trying to push them so hard that it pushes them out. Because it's a very delicate balance to where it's like you want to push people and you want to make them good and you want to make them the best version of themselves. But if you push too hard, it pushes them out the door. Mm-hmm. So you have to find that balance of like, okay, I'm going to ride them hard enough, but not break them. And that for me is an always adjusting equation from student to student. And that's probably the toughest thing for me about teaching is not getting frustrated, allowing them to come to the realization on their own terms, not forcing it early, and pushing them hard enough, but not breaking them in the process. Because, man, I've unfortunately pushed good students out the door because I've seen so much good potential in them, and I push them so hard that they're just like, well, I don't want to do it anymore. It's not quote unquote fun anymore. Which you always want to make it fun, but you always want to make sure that they're learning. So that's probably the toughest thing about teaching for me. And the next question, and then we'll kind of tell you how long it took both of us, and then we'll kind of give you the generic answer, is how long did it take you to get to black belt? So, Stephen, how long did it take you to get to your black belt?
It took me 5 years.
About 5 years?
About 5 years.
It took me about 2.5, 3 years because I was double privates. Like I was in it. I was in it a lot. I started helping out teaching in the dojo when I was a purple belt. Like I was in it a lot more than your average student was.
Yeah.
So
well, you just mentioned you were committed. You were all in.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. So for me, it took me about 2.5, 3 years. But if I was just doing weekly private lessons and like group class and all that stuff, it'll probably take me 5 or 6 for sure. On average, if we're talking adults, like I would say 16 plus, it can take anywhere from, I would dare say, 3 to 5 years, if not longer, to get to black. It all depends on the student.
Right.
So when you're talking children, it could take anywhere from 6 to 10 years, to be quite honest with you. I had a young man, his real name is Hayden, but everybody called him Nacho in the dojo because he had a giant eagle patch on his back. And I said, what do you think you are, Nacho Libre? And he had no idea what I was talking about. So I just started calling him Nacho.
Oh, yeah.
And then he finally watched the movie and he embraced the Nacho nickname. So Nacho was one of the first enrollments the South Jordan studio had. And he was 4 years old when he started. He got his black belt when he turned 16.
Oh, wow.
So he trained for, a good 12 years before he got to his black. And then I've had some students where it's like well, hopefully tomorrow he'll do it. We've got a student named Luke who has been training for coming up on 4 years. So I think he started training in this March of 2020, like right when COVID happened. And he's testing for his black belt tomorrow. So, and then it took him, less than 4 years. So, yeah, it all depends on the student. But typically, when you're talking 16 and older, 3 to 5 years, like kids, 6 to 10 years, So, unfortunately, a lot of them don't really make it to black. I've got to think, in the 15 years we've been training here, how many black belts have we gotten? It's we've had, right now we've got Sarah, Jay, you, Elsa, Todd, Margaret. That's it, right? Yeah, so there's 6 current. And in the past, we've had Trayton, Emily, Ellen, Nacho, Cade,
Jacob.
Yep, Jacob. Jordan. So probably about another 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So like it averages about 1 a year. So yeah, unfortunately not everybody makes it to black, but everybody has the ability to get to black. So that's just the answer. So yeah, so it's a weird thing. I mean, when you start thinking about like that, is everybody has the ability to get to a black belt, but not everybody gets a black belt.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess I'm just wired differently, where it's like, why would you stop when you have a clear objective? It's like, time's going to pass regardless. You might as well do something worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't like stopping anything. So, but that's just me. Yeah, so those were our 3 questions for the week. If there's anything that you guys would like to know about, feel free to leave us some questions in the comments. Or you can email us questions at TruTalkTuesdays@gmail.com. Is that the email correct?
That should be the email, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to email us a question, you can always email us at TruTalkTuesdays@gmail.com, or you can just leave the question in the comments. But next week we'll have another set of questions and another set of top 5s. And how we're going to kind of wrap up the show for the beginning of season 2 is we're going to talk about our objectives for our main objective for the year, our theme for the year. The theme for us for this year is growth. Okay. Because last year we moved into a new building and we didn't grow. In fact, I'm pretty sure we shrank. And that just doesn't really sit well with me. So when it comes to growth, I've talked to numerous students, all the assistants, all that stuff, and what growth means to me and in the dojo. Growth can mean all sorts of things. It could be the number of students you teach. It could be physical strength you gain. It could be mental strength you gain. It could be spiritual awareness that you come into contact with. It could be anything that deals with you becoming a better version of yourself. And growth, unfortunately, is never painless. So in order to grow, you do have to go through some discomfort. And that's why I think we are going to grow this year, because last year was for me, honestly, it was very uncomfortable. Why? Because we're in a new setting, a new environment, basically new everything. And I had to learn how to readjust, and I wasn't doing it very well. So growth and learning to be uncomfortable is going to be the theme for me this year, because I'm still trying to get comfortable with the new surroundings. So, we were in a certain location in a certain spot for, 14 years. You get pretty comfortable in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. Then all of a sudden you're taken out of that area. You're still doing the same thing in terms of teaching, but you're in a new environment, new surrounding, new scenarios. Like the layout's different. You're not able to see everybody that you normally would be able to see. So for me, last year was very uncomfortable in terms of like adapting to the new environment. So the theme for this year is growth, and that could be any number of things for anybody that wants to partake in the journey with us. So obviously for dojo wise, we want to teach more people. Okay. The goal is to help out and build better people. Okay. That's our theme, is to build better people. We want a better society. We want a better community. We want people to feel confident in whatever endeavor they choose to partake in. So for us here at the dojo, we want our theme to be student growth. We want to
send more people to tests, send
Yeah.
more people to tournaments.
Exactly. We want people to be confident. We want people to have a good time. Because I know how much fun this is. And when people are like, oh, I don't think that'll be a lot of fun, I have to look at them like they're crazy. And it's like, I have to watch myself sometimes, because it's like, what do you mean it's not? Are you an idiot? Like, what do you mean it's not fun? But I have to understand that everybody's as passionate about it as I am. And that's okay. But yeah, kind of like what you were just saying, Stephen, like sending more people to tests, sending more people to tournaments, sending people to out-of-state tournaments, having people do more animal tests. Like next weekend, we have All-Star Weekend, having people go to All-Star Weekend, because that's a fun event. And it's a great way to hang out with people that are like-minded, that love doing what you're doing, and they're doing it with more people, okay? Like anytime anybody says less is better, that's not true in everything, okay? Like if you go to a concert, which by the way, in all disclosure, I'm not a concert person. I don't like them because too many people there.
Okay.
But if you go to a concert, you want a packed concert, okay? You don't want to rock out with like 5 people. That's not very fun, okay? But for me, I don't like the big crowd because I can't relax, okay? So I'm like, oh, somebody's going to sneak up behind me or
Got
whatever.
your defense mechanisms on.
Yeah, they're on overload, so everybody else can go party and have fun, and I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime you do something, it's always funner to do it with a group,
Mm-hmm.
okay? It's never fun to do it by yourself. So we want to have more people to have fun with. So that's my version of growth for this year. What do you feel like your version of growth is going to be for this year?
Let's see. Growth for me is going to encompass more health PRs, more records, more personal bests, do more at all the different events here, martial arts wise. I kind of had this unique thought that I want to become good at something that makes people change how they spar me. I want to come up with some sort of trick or habit or just technique that makes someone else think.
Okay.
I want to be good at forms too. You know, it's a whole bunch of improvement. I think the term Kaizen, Japanese term for continuous improvement, is how I want to run this year.
Yeah. Interesting that you talked about that. So I think Master Martin was trying to find that word to talk about in our meeting yesterday. Or are you like 1% better than you were the day before? And that's the name of the game. That's the growth.
Yep.
Are we 1% better than we were yesterday? Okay. And I agree. I think those are all great. And growth is subjective for everybody. So that's why it's like you can use a term like that, because like I feel like I've grown and yet there's still a lot more to go.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other someone else may feel like they've grown, but yet you can't see it yet.
That's right.
So that's the theme for us this year, is growth. Okay. We'd love for you to grow with us. Because again, we're here about trying to build better people, build the best version of yourself. You know, you want to be the strongest version, the most flexible version, the smartest version, like whatever it is. Let's make sure that we do our part together to make that happen. Because again, when you have people that you're accountable to, you're more than likely going to do it more often. So if you're looking for people to hold you accountable in the right way, give us a call or come on in, or find a family member to be like, hey, I'm going to be doing this. I want you to check up on me. Or I'm going to text you these numbers every night to make sure I'm accountable for what I'm doing. Because it's interesting, because I still do that sort of stuff with Master Mark, where every night I send him a text about certain stuff, and that's just my way of holding myself accountable for him. You know, some people think it's silly, but honestly, ever since I started doing that consistently, things started changing consistently. So, yeah, growth is what we're going to be working on this year. So you can either grow with us or not grow with us, but we prefer you to grow with us.
I think the saying holds true. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, go with the team. Exactly. So thank you for joining us on episode 1, season 2 of True Talk with TruMotion. If there's a certain top 5 or certain questions you'd like us to answer, please either email us at TrueTalkTuesdays@gmail.com or leave the comments or the top 5s and the questions in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us rant about everything and anything. But I know I've had a lot of fun doing these, and everybody that we've had come on the show has been like, oh my gosh, that is so much fun. And it's all we're doing is talking with each other. I think we need to get back to the ability to talk with people. I think we've lost the ability to talk with people. Why? Because it's all text. Okay. So if you've been texting people all day, stop it, pick up the phone, and actually call somebody. Or turn to the person next to you and strike up a conversation with them. You know, there's nothing wrong with trying to meet new people. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys next week for another new episode. Talk to you guys soon.
Kick it with us next time. Bye, everyone.